Happy holidays from all of us at the Florida Squeeze. Wanted to let you know, all of our followers and readers and viewers out there, that we have two new books, or one second edition, but incredibly revised book from our publishing house, and another new book coming out. So the revised book, and by the way, both books are by me, Kartik Krishnaiyer, although our publishing house has published books by other authors, and we have a few more coming in the mix. And in fact, highly recommend some of them. You can check them out on the floridasqueeze.com site. My book on Florida and the British, which was published in the middle of 2023, was really kind of a raw book of kind of essays. Presented itself kind of like a word processor or document or long dissertation that just had binding to it. Now, in the second edition, we've given it true book form. Chapters, more photos, more information, more in the narrative. Florida and the British prior to the American Revolution. And this deals a lot with the colonial situation in Florida from the 1560s onward till 1775, right, when the American Revolution broke out. For most of that time, Florida was a Spanish colony, but there were colonial wars that involved the British. There was a lot of rich history in St. Augustine, in Pensacola, and in the hinterland of Florida that isn't often talked about. And in fact, I argue in this book that the first Underground Railroad, truly the first Underground Railroad, was to Florida. And it started in the 1680s and 1690s as runaway slaves came from the Carolinas to Florida. So the second edition of that book is now available on Amazon.com. You can get the Kindle version. The paperback version is $7.99. And the hardcover version is $14.99. We did not issue a hardcover with the first edition. That's because we've added a lot more content to the narrative, in addition to maps and pictures. And as I said, it's a more organized text. So those of you who may have bought the first book and may have learned from it, I got very good feedback on it, other than the formatting, which was a mess. I admit that. And at the time, we didn't have the publishing software. Now we do. Lincoln's Ghost, which was a book by Robert Buccellato that we published last year, as well as Rum Runners and Moonshiners of Old Florida Volume 2, which was a book we published last year. We obtained the software to publish those books, and so we were able to reformat this book for that. So that's out now. My new book on the War of 1812 and the Florida fronts of the War of 1812, and that talks in great detail about what happened in Florida during that period of time. The War of 1812, for those of you who have studied it, I think know that it was a bunch of disjointed wars, right? Obviously, the United States versus Great Britain was the major war, but there were wars with Native Americans. There was the invasion of Canada. There were two different distinct fronts in Florida, a West Florida front, which did culminate with the Battle of New Orleans, right? Which Andrew Jackson won in early 1815, and then also an East Florida front, which is also known as the Patriots' War. I go into great detail about that in this book. It will be available on January 2nd in all formats.